Mixed messages we learned about money. This is coming from the perspective of having grown up with a narcissistic parent. This is part 3 in the series on healing from narcissistic abuse. So if you haven't checked out parts 1 and 2, I highly recommend you listen to those to get the foundation of narcissism, because I'm not going to be going into that in much detail in this video. I think what I want to do here is I want to get into, right off the bat, the result. I'm going to kind of start at the end and work backwards. If you grew up with a narcissistic parent and you received mixed messages about money, you likely have a tremendous feeling of being undeserving of having money. You feel guilty for having money. You are so good at being so frugal, pinching pennies until they scream, and almost feeling a sense of pride or bragging about how little, how bare minimum you can make it by on. Yet, at the same time, what you saw growing up was the complete and total opposite. We have to remember that narcissism exists living in duality, living in a world that's polarized, and also living from a place of tremendous scarcity. So the narcissist who is so consumed with looking good, with getting other people's approval, with appearances, they have that outer house, the car, the degree, the money, all of that is in place. But then on the inside, there's a very different story going on. We don't have enough. You're so spoiled. You spoiled brat, you. We can't turn the heat up 1 degree. Put some more clothes on. Who do you think you are? Money doesn't grow on trees. Do you think I'm made of money? You might have heard things like that. But again, as a child, you took in these messages of scarcity, riding alongside appearances of the opposite, the material wealth, the outer expressions of abundance, next to, we can't afford your swim lessons. So what do? So you grow up and you likely have spending habits that may be erratic. Periods of time where you are extremely frugal, punctuated by extravagant spending. And while there may be times when extravagant spending is appropriate, what we have to do to heal this is to understand and have awareness of what we grew up with and see that for what it is. So if we have this dynamic of growing up with a narcissistic parent, we have to understand they're all about appearances. They're all about getting love from outside of themselves, all about getting approval from outside of themselves, looking good. But on the inside, there is deep scarcity. There's shame. There's inadequacy and not being good enough, or not feeling like they're enough. So within you, if you grew up with this, you carry within you those two sides. In order to heal this, we have to adopt a new narrative. Start to pay attention to how you think about money, how you talk to yourself about money, or an unexpected expense that comes up, or the price of something that you want to buy. How do you talk to others about money? And I'm willing to bet that a lot of that self-talk is very, very negative. That's an indication of where we need to start. We have to understand that that tape is old programming. That tape is coming from scarcity, not being deserving, guilt. Guilt for having things go your way, guilt for having things easy. You should have things hard, right? That's the message. You should have to struggle. You should have a hard time. You should be at bare minimum. You don't deserve money. That's a bunch of crap. And many people who come from this background that get these weird messages, conflicting messages about money, that's what they're taught. You're supposed to struggle. And that is not true. And that's a continuation of that limiting belief. The cycle stops with you. When we decide to change our narrative about money from, I can't afford it, that costs too much, I'll never have the money for that, which is so narrow, and instead open it up to a panoramic view. And to know that you are being taken care of. But if you keep thinking limiting beliefs, all of that doesn't exist. All of that panoramic view is gone. So if you look at the bills you have to pay and you're like, ah, shit, I got to pay bills. Ah, damn it. I got another, I have this unexpected expense this month. This came up. I got to fix my car. Something happened. Instead of feeling upset about it, what if instead you said, I'm so glad there are people who know how to fix cars, and these people are going to make my car work again. How awesome is that? How lucky am I? Isn't it so awesome that there are people who are putting food on shelves, off a truck and onto a shelf, that I have food to put in my pantry and in my fridge? What if when you checked out at a store, you said, how great is it? I am helping to support the person ringing up my purchase because I am making a purchase here at this store, and some of that is going to someone else's paycheck. Do you see the difference? Where one is coming from a place of gratitude, ability, and openness versus closing down, scarcity. There's not enough. Let me tell you something. There is more than enough for everyone. The problem is that we think that there isn't. We are burdened by things like guilt, not feeling deserving of having abundance, and talking to ourselves in ways that eliminate that from happening. If you want to change the outer expression of how money is coming into your life, you got to change the story, change the tape. Let's drop the old story. Let's drop all of that stuff that you learned. You could come up with 10 situations and rattle them off to me over the next hour if we were sitting face to face. And instead, I encourage you to let those stay in the past where they belong. Let those die. And realize that you have the capability at your fingertips. It takes reparenting yourself, changing your thinking, and absolutely committing to that new way of thinking. You can't do it for 2 weeks and then quit and say it didn't work. So that's my advice. Listen to how you speak about money. And every time you communicate about it, make sure that it is a positive thought that will attract it into your life instead of pushing it away. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.